Welcome to this video showing you Tricentis end-to-end scriptless automation being leveraged in upgrade and patch testing. When it comes to testing different Windows updates and patches across different configurations, this requires multiple resources. Different people with different machines will need to go through and test the different configurations. When done manually, this is extremely slow and time-consuming. With the largest out-of-the-box support, Tricentis Tosca is used in a variety of projects and environments by different teams. Some of these are software development for UI and non-UI testing, application testing after Windows upgrades, patches, and firm updates, smoke testing after moving servers from one data center to another, installation of software on Windows machines, and many more. On the right, we can see a small subset of some of the technology supported. Let's have a look and see an example of how this can be done. Before we look at our example for Windows upgrade and patch testing, let's have a look and see how we do model-based automation. If I open up Tricentis Tosca, you can see different tabs relating to different features and functions within the tool. In order to automate an application after any update or patch or change that has come through, we need to create a model, which is the foundation of our automation. This is scriptless and anyone can use this, whether they're technical or non-technical users. I start off by scanning my application, whether it's Microsoft Excel or a browser-based application, whatever it may be, UI, APIs, we cover all of these in the same scriptless way. I'll start off by selecting my web-based application, and I'll select all the controls that I want to use as a part of my test. As I go through and click on the different controls on the screen, whatever it might be, labels or any controls, you'll see on the right hand side it is building this reusable model which is scriptless, and it will be my single point of maintenance going forward. I hit the finish button and I can create my next model. I'm going to start my scan again, but this time switch to my advanced tab and select a new application. Now I'm going to scan my Microsoft Excel and go through the same exercise. Switching back to my basic view, I can now go through my actual application and select the controls I want to interact with. Maybe after an upgrade, I want to test that Excel is still functioning correctly. I can select all the controls straight off the screen, as I would have done as part of my test. I just simply click on all the different controls, and Tricentis Tosca will build this model for me on the right hand side over here. I hit the finish button, and now I've created two models that allow me to automate two technologies. These can be used in a single test. If I go back to Tricentis Tosca, you'll see I have my two new models created here, one for my web-based application and one for my desktop client, which is Microsoft Excel. This will work for about 150, 160 different technologies. When I want to use these models in an automated test, I simply drag them from the orange section into the blue section, which is my test cases, go through it and simply populate the data straight in the actual test on the right hand side here. You'll see as I go through, I can select based on the controls it pulled from the screen. These can also be later data driven. The same would apply for Excel. If I wanted to enter a value in one of the fields, I could simply select the column, select the row, and enter the value over here. I can change the actual type of action, whether it's an input or a verification, by selecting it from this drop-down list displayed here. This is what we call scriptless automation that can be leveraged by any user. Now let's have a look at our example today. We have some requirements for a Windows upgrade and patch testing, and there's a new patch that's come through. In my example, I have different requirements that relate to different desktop applications that I need to test to ensure they're still functioning correctly for my end users. These are my different requirements. I can prioritize them based on frequency and damage, and this will give me a more meaningful report when tests pass and fail. This tells me that 65% of the business risk is covered by this execution that ran. If I open this up, you can see each requirement has different types of tests, whether it's an Office Outlook test where we create a PowerPoint and email it off to test to see if those are working correctly. These tests can be linked back to the requirement for this business risk-based reporting. The next tab is the red section, which is our test case design. This is our data-driven side. Based on these requirements that are created, I can run through each test multiple times with different types of tests. In this example, it's a ServiceNow test case, creating a new incident, and I need to test all the different variations. This is what we will call data-driven testing. We can use Excel spreadsheets, but this you can see all our data sheets are in the same tool. If I move over to the right, where we see the test that we just created, on the left you'll see all the different tools that have been covered. If I open up my ServiceNow test, we have this template, which I have data-driven based on the template you just saw. If I expand it, open up the fields, you'll see a lot of the fields have been parameterized with this Excel, which point to my data sheet. This template is my single point of maintenance going forward, and as I go through all my tests, I can parameterize everything where I want to run it with different variations. Tosca will merge the template with the data sheet over here and create multiple tests. I only need to maintain the template going forward. The actual tests created in this folder will then be dragged and dropped into my green section over here where they can run. There's my template instance folder with all my different tests. This is my execution list where we drag and drop all our tests to run all our tests after different patches. This can be hooked up to a build tool or any scheduler to be triggered as part of the pipeline or whenever it makes sense for your process. You can see I have different tests for Cisco Jabber, Microsoft Office, ServiceNow, Visual Studio, Camtasia as well. Whatever the technology is, anything that you want to test after any upgrades or patches have come through, we have out-of-the-box support for these different technologies. What we can also do after we've automated these and put them in execution lists, as you saw, is if we want to run these on different machines, this would take a lot of time. With automation, we can set up different machines with different configurations, as we have over here. I can set up the same configurations within Tosca and assign these configurations to execution lists or events that we call them. And if I click over here, you can see different execution lists can be assigned to different configurations. And then at runtime, when we run the actual tests, Tosca will actually go out and look for a machine with that specific configuration to cover off all the different variations and run the tests on these different machines. When bugs are found and located, we can create them within the tool, and these will link to any defect management tool that you currently have using an integration that we have within the tool.